I have been wanting to show you this for like a week, dude. This is absolutely ridiculous. And this video is all about dongs. And I'm not talking about like that picture you sent your girl. Don't do that, dude. Don't do that. And this video is probably gonna piss some people off because a lot of people don't like this. But literally like July, August, something happens and it's all about the dong and it's all about big baits, dude. Check this out. I capture on my active target too, dude. And this is the perfect illustration of why you need a dong in hand this time of year. Ridiculous, right? And I'm gonna explain to you exactly what happened because there's a little kind of tweak too and something a little unique not everybody's doing with a big dong. But what we're gonna do in this video is I'm gonna show you kind of the supplies, dude. Exactly what you need and my top dong, God, this sounds terrible. My top dong picks, this is my top dong. Oh God, that's like a double on. All right, but that's what I'm gonna show you, dude, because there are a few that I think work better than most. And actually in the video, we'll start with that. In the video, what I was actually using is where is it? This guy right here. You guys probably remember I did a video with Swimsuit Girl. We caught him on a swim bait, the Ignite swim bait. It's that old school kind of Alabama mold. He makes what's called a nicotine shad. It's a lot like Jacob Wheeler's Crush City deal, but it has wings, if you guys can see right there. Pretty cool color too, right? So that's what I mainly caught them on. It's super girthy, super big. One of the biggest keys though, and you can kind of tell by the tail, the plastic's like ultra soft. It does tear up, there's no doubt about it, right? And all these baits, for being soft plastics, they're kind of expensive. I'm gonna show you a little thing you can do to kind of preserve them and make them last a little bit longer. But the reality is, if you wanna do this, expect to waste some baits, expect to spend some money. This is kind of the budget friendly guy, and it's this guy. You've seen it in the videos quite a bit. This is the Zoom Winged Fluke. Now, one note about this, I don't like to really throw this in the winter so much, but during the summer, what I'll actually do is I'll just take my Zoom bag and I'll just throw it on the deck. And what ends up happening is the sun beats down on it, it heats it up, and it actually softens that plastic up, and it makes that winged fluke behave a lot better. It's not on the level of the one I'm about to show you, like Sakamata level, but it makes the bait a lot more supple, a lot more soft, and the action gets a lot better. But you gotta give it some sun on the deck. So the last one's the classic, right? Most expensive of all, and there's a couple problems with it, right? It's the Depths Sakamata Shad. The problem with them is couple things. Like basically you can't get them. Every time they're on Tackle Warehouse, as you can kind of see, I buy like 34 of them. The other thing is they tear up super easy. One fish, these are done. They're great baits and they are the best of the big dong minnows, but hard to get, tear up super easy, and it can be frustrating because they're expensive, dude, and they're hard to find. That's kind of like my top three when it comes to these big dong baits. There's a lot of different ones out there, but those are the ones I've had the most success with. One of the most important things though, if you want to try this bite, is your terminal, dude. So I'll throw this on like a 12 or 15 pound leader. There's a couple jig heads that I use. One of them, you guys know, and you've seen me throw that Scottsboro Hellfire ball head a ton. So the Scottsboro Hellfire comes in a 5/0, dude, a 5/0 hook, a big hook, right? But you can't get it on Tackle Warehouse. You have to call the shop directly, talk to them, and get it from them. The other one, and I had this one custom made, my buddy at Descent Jigs made this one for me. So it's a custom ball head. This is a 3/16 with a 5/0 hook with the 90-degree tie on it like that. And both the Hellfire as well as that Descent Jigs both have a screw lock, you'll notice immediately, and it's the large gauge screw lock. And the reason is the only way that I've found to kind of preserve the integrity of these baits and to keep them for more than one fish. A lot of these baits are one fish and done, dude. Maybe two if you're lucky, but they get cored out super easy. So the only way to kind of preserve them and make them last, doesn't always work, but it helps, is the screw lock. The other thing it does is this. So I have my active target 2 set to 120 feet. So I'm throwing to fish that are way out there. I've found that they're getting a little weird to the ping. It allows me a lot more space and I can cast way out to them and keep them going longer. However, making those bomb casts, if you have a standard kind of keeper on there, unless it's some kind of specialized keeper, these baits slide down and you end up coring the bait. So that screw lock not only allows you to preserve the bait when you catch one, it also allows you to make these like bomb, like surf casting style dong casts, dude. And to me personally, I think it matters, and it matters in this sneaky little retrieve that I'm about to kind of explain and show to you. There's two ways to kind of retrieve this thing. One, and if you guys noticed in kind of like the B-roll clips that I'm showing you, I have my rod tip down, right? It's something that I gleaned from some of the MLF and the Bassmaster guys. One of the biggest problems with any minnow bait, big one, small one, whatever, is the rise. You want this thing to run very parallel to the bottom in the water column. A lot of guys are doing this, the old shaker daker, right? The Japanese shake. What I've found is pointing that rod tip down and almost treating it like a kai check where you're slow rolling it and then doing a slight twitch is a lot better. It keeps the bait a lot more level. You have more control over the bait. The hook set's a little awkward sometimes, but I haven't lost too many fish doing it. And I think they're used to seeing this poppity, and it definitely rises the bait a lot more. So what we're actually doing in the video that's kind of sneaky is basically you throw it out, you'd sink that thing down to where you wanted it, and then you'd start it going, just a slight shake, slight reel, right? And then, bro, you would burn that thing back to the boat. Maybe you'd pause once. What I ended up seeing is these fish would just dart off the bottom, right? It'd be like 4 or 5 of them in like a micro group. They dart off the bottom, they cloud the bait, dart at the bait. And if I paused it, it would almost like stall for a second and one would close on it. But you never want to pause more than once or twice on like a bomb cast. You'd basically burn this thing straight back to the boat, dude. It was the craziest thing. And it made sense afterwards. So here's what was actually going on. These fish, even though they were in a school, they were locked in like 17, 18 foot of water, down tight to the bottom. There's all these bait balls floating around, right? And these bait balls were floating around and these fish would dart up and I'd see one kind of school and just crush a shad over to my left. And that's exactly what they were doing to these big minnows, is they were blazing up, they were kind of isolating it to the surface or chasing it all the way to the surface and then closing right before or as it got to the surface. So I had to mimic that kind of behavior with that big minnow in order to trigger them. So I'm just burning that thing straight back. And the moment it got super high and they thought it was their last chance to get it, they would absolutely crush it. I can't believe I got it on the active target. It was so freaking cool. That's kind of the gamut of it, dude. It's an interesting thing. It happens late July, August. These fish transition to the big baits. I don't know if it's because the bait is actually bigger this time of year or if it's because they've seen so many finesse presentations, so many crankbaits, so many whatevers, worms, all that kind of stuff. I think part of it has to do too with them looking up and the bait starting to ball up as we go into late summer and fall. So these fish are much more keyed into kind of like that schooling style behavior. And I think that that bigger bait is just kind of frosting on the cake to get some bigger bites. It's absolutely ridiculous, dude. I've been doing this the past like 2 or 3 years, maybe even 4 years at this point. But using those high-speed retrieves, much like we've talked about with a bunch of other baits, a jerkbait, a crankbait, you know, using that high-speed sort of cadence to trigger them. In this case, we're actually like burning it all the way back to the boat, a little bit different. But those bigger baits this time of year are absolutely key, dude. Like there's nothing that gets them to close like a big dong, dude. It's so freaking ridiculous and it's so fun to throw, dude. I hope you guys enjoyed this though. I'll put links to all this stuff at Tackle Warehouse for you guys to check out. And if you guys got anything to add or you've played around with a dong, I gotta stop saying it. You played around with big dongs like these guys, like the Sakamata, like the Ignite. If you guys got any tips, drop them down in the comments box because I'd love to hear some tweaks in that you make either with the bait or with your retrieve to just make it that much more appealing. Appealing dongs. That's what this whole video is about, dude. Feel free to give me a thumbs down. But I'll put links to all that stuff. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me and all the support. Hit that like and subscribe button. I'm gonna go back to handling a dong.